Hi, my name is Gary Harmon from Harmon Speaks, and I wanted to talk to you just a moment today about why we're doing this project. Several years ago, my wife and I started our family, and we have two children. And our children were born into a world where they had to figure out why their dad looked a little different from everybody else. I was born as a result of amniotic band syndrome. I don't have more than two fingers on my left hand, I have no right hand, and I have no feet. Now, my children were fine with that because I was the only dad they knew. They got used to it very quickly, and it was never an issue. As a matter of fact, my younger son used to enjoy tickling the bottom of my prosthetic leg and see if it made me laugh. But when they got older and we would go out into the world, they could see how other people react, and it made them a little bit nervous. And so I never noticed this until I had children. And I started thinking what we need to do is find a way to help people in the world understand that those of us with physical or intellectual differences are still human, still can be a part of the world and not be scary. So I started a three-pronged approach. I do these videos, I've written 2 books, and I do speaking with organizations who want to learn more about people with disabilities. You can find this on www.harmonspeaks.com. Please get in touch with me. I'd like us to get to know each other a little better. Thank you. Good evening and welcome back to Harmon Speaks. I'm Gary Harmon, and I wanted to take one episode here and just talk to you, if that's okay with you. I have a few things on my mind. Now, I was thinking as we do shows here and in the future, every now and then I might want to stop and just talk about some things that might be on my mind. Also, if you are watching this video and you would like to suggest something we discuss, or ask a question, or make a comment, I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to post them under the video. I do read them all. I will respond, I promise. So please give me a comment. Also, please continue to like and subscribe to the videos. I'd like to prove to YouTube that there's a purpose to this and try to stay in existence. So please back us up and help us with that. Now, this is what's on my mind tonight. I've been thinking a lot about coming out of the pandemic and about what that's meant to me and what sort of things have happened since I have come out of hiding. I was joking a couple of weeks ago about being at home under a table, and all of that wasn't true. I was being sarcastic as always, but it felt true because I really did stay home most of that time. I would go out on a car drive with my wife and my son, or go to the grocery store, but I wouldn't go in. My wife's younger, she's stronger, she's healthier. She would go in and do the grocery shopping with her mask and take our son, and they're warriors, they did it, but they didn't want me, since I only have a half a lung. They didn't really want me to go in and do that, and I appreciate that. So I didn't go. But now that I've had my vaccine and things are beginning to change a little, we're out in the world now, and I have found that you don't just walk back out. There's some things you have to get used to again, some positive and some negative. I wanted to share a few of those incidences with you and just talk to you a little bit about that. The first time we really went out on the town, so to speak, we went to an area in our city where there are a lot of restaurants and a lot of foot traffic, and we went there and ate dinner. I think we felt a little creepy with people all around, but we did that, and when we left, my wife and my son walked off to the garage to get our car, and I waited in the square out in front of the restaurant waiting for them to come back. as I usually do. Not because I can't do it, but because they can walk 15 times faster than I do, and they want to get home before the next day. So they went to get the car, and I waited for them. And while I was standing there, a lot of people were walking past me. And it didn't take me long to realize I was becoming something of a sideshow. People would come by, and I'm not complaining, and normally I don't notice this, but I was more aware of it because I haven't been around it much. And people were walking by and stopping and staring at me. They were literally looking at my prosthetics. I'm wearing shorts always, so they could see the shorts, my prosthetic legs. They saw my hands, and they were, I guess, trying to figure out what my story was. Now, when somebody does that and comes up and starts talking to me, I consider that a great person. I appreciate the fact that they at least talk to me. We can have a conversation, and I'm glad to discuss it with anybody that may be curious. I understand if I'm going to get out of the house, I take that risk, and I take it gladly. So I don't mind talking about it. But having people just stop and look at you and walk on by, no questions, no comments, and maybe not even a look of approval on their faces, just walking by like, wow, I thought I'd see him in the zoo. I don't know what they're thinking, and that makes it even worse. So I wasn't very comfortable with that. And I have a smart mouth for which my family knows I'm famous. But I wanted to just stand there and say something like, for $1, baby, I'll give you a dance, or something. I don't know what. But it felt exploitive in a way. And I know that's a strange thing to say for a 61-year-old fat guy, but it just felt weird, and I was not appreciative of it. Now, here's the good news. My response to that was to go back to that same area over and over and over, because that's one of my favorite parts of our city. I love that area, and I love the restaurants we frequent there. So I've gone back several times, still wearing shorts, still looking as odd as ever, but now people around there, I think, are beginning to get more accustomed to me. They know I'm around, and it's not a story anymore. And that's a good thing. So I hope that's a solution for me, and I hope it can be a solution for you too.
Sounds like good therapy.
It is, I think, because I'm not going to hide from anybody.
Yeah.
I want to be out in the world. I'm obviously a chubby man. I like to go into restaurants. My wife tries to feed me, but nobody can perform a miracle. And so she has to have backup help sometimes. And it's just good for us to get out of the house and circulate. So we like to do that every now and then. And the people in the restaurant will get used to me, and the people outside eventually will as well. Now, here's another one. When we were at the beach a few weeks ago, we went to the beach. We like going to the beach. We usually make this a once-a-year trek. And this time, of course, when we got there, everybody was there at the same time. I couldn't walk to the beach without people bumping into me, and I don't like beaches that crowded. So I wasn't really thrilled with that. But I had a moment while I was there that I really loved. We decided to go out for breakfast once. I don't know if you know this about me, but I love breakfast. And we went out for breakfast, and the place makes, what's it called? Crab meat eggs Benedict. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
When you get that, my age, that's dirty talk. And oh my God, I loved it. I just loved it. But anyway, we were out eating way too much and having a good time. And this family walks past me to leave, and they stop. And their son, who was about 8 years old, stopped and turned to me. He said, "Excuse me, sir, but I can't help but notice, what happened to your hands?" And I turned to face him. Yeah, right? And I turned to face him and I said, "First of all, I want you to know I'm proud you asked that question and didn't just walk out of the restaurant and not ask it."
Say, "Look at him,
right.
Mommy."
Yeah, what's that? He stopped and asked a really intelligent question. Now I said, I will answer your question, but before I do, I want you to know that I think your parents are incredible. It takes really good parents to raise really good children.
Yes.
And the parents are behind him just beaming because they were embarrassed at first. And now they understand they didn't have to be. And I told him that they were obviously good parents. They've taught him how to be polite, ask what's on his mind, instead of just being afraid and live without information. I was proud that he did what he did. And then I answered his question. And you know the answer to that already. But I answered that for him and let him understand that it was not a bad thing to ask. It's a good thing to ask. If you don't know, you should ask. Now, I've talked in the past about it's best if you can come up and start a conversation, ask my name and that sort of thing, and then ask. But if you're a child walking out of the restaurant, there are no rules. Come up and ask your question. I'll answer it for you. I was very proud of that young man, and I hope he continues asking the questions that come up in his mind, and he'll be a very smart grown-up. Another thing that happened to me just a couple of nights ago. Once again, we're out on the town, a different restaurant this time. And as we were coming out, the table sitting by me asked me to step over there a moment. It was a young man and a young woman. They told me they were just recently married. I laughed. It's a better year than me, bud. And no, I'm just kidding. But I congratulated them. And then I said, "What's on your mind?" And he said, "Well, sir, I wanted to know if you were in the war." Now, I get this question a lot. It's a reasonable question. Yeah, it doesn't upset me at all. No. It's fine. And I said, "No, sir, this is a result of a birth defect, not of thinking the war." And I said, "I never had that honor to serve our country." And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, I am so sorry." That was the button where I have to respond to. Because I don't want him to go away thinking that because I had a birth defect and my hands are missing and my leg is missing, my feet are missing, that it's something sad. I was born without those appendages. I've never had them, and I've never missed them.
That's right.
You know, every now and then, like today, I had to get my prosthetics worked on. There are times I say, wouldn't it have been easier just to give me a couple ugly feet? But I don't have them. I got to work without them, and that's okay. The last thing I ever want, and I've said this to you before, I believe that pity is poison. If you start pitying somebody, you give them permission not to be their best. And I've worked really hard in my life to be the best Gary Harmon I can be. And that's not great, but at least it's the best I can do. And I feel like at the end of my life, I can at least say I was in there fighting the battle. So I explained all this to that poor young man who just wanted to finish his meal. And then I wished him well, and I said, "I don't mean to go on and on and on, but you seem like a very reasonable young man, and I'm hoping when you two have children or whatever you do, that you will teach them that disability is not something you should pity. It's something you should recognize and live with, but not pity." So we shook hands and we parted ways.
Hey, he started it, so...
I agree. And I'm not mad at him.
No.
He was a very nice young man. His wife was a very nice woman. I just didn't want pity to fester and keep going on and on and on. And I felt like that was the best way that I could deal with it, is to let him know that that's not okay. It's not wrong. I'm not going to beat him up, but I'm not going to let that sit there like that. So those are three things that have been happening to me recently that have got me thinking about coming back out of my seclusion back into the world. Now, fortunately, I have a really good support system. I have a family that stands by me and helps me. I love and thank them for it. I have a church family that stands by me and supports me. I appreciate them. And I have a lot of friends that I love and thank for supporting me as well. So I stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't know if you have giants in your life or not. I have no idea. But I do know that sitting at home and not getting out into this will just make it scarier later on when you do decide to get help. And I hope and I urge you to go on and take the plunge. I think you're going to find there are a lot more nice people out there who will support you. They may have some questions, but they will support you. They will help you. They will encourage you to be whoever you are. And the people that don't, you can try to educate them if you wish. You can walk away if you wish. You don't have a burden. I was doing a class once, a college class, where they were talking about dealing with people with disabilities in the classroom. And I made the comment that my father-in-law waited until 3 or 4 months after I married his daughter before he ever asked me about my disability. And we were at the Thanksgiving dinner table at the time, and I looked at him and smiled, and I said, it's because of an extraordinarily contagious disease. And I went back to eating. And my wife laughed, and he said, now, Gary, I know better than that. I'm an intelligent man, and he is. And I just kind of laughed my way through it. And finally, my wife, I think, explained to him what happened. And someone in the class asked me if I didn't feel like I had an obligation to tell him. And I said, you know what, before we got married, yeah, maybe we should have had that conversation. But after I had married his daughter, it's a little late, isn't it? What does he want to know? It's a little late. If you want to know, you got to do before the marriage happens, not afterwards. She's already dealing with me now. And 30 years later, she still is. Thank you. Knock on wood. Yeah, so he should have asked before. And he and I have discussed that since. He's passed away now, but we've discussed it. He apologized. I gave him a hug. I didn't care. And we moved on, and we were still free. I love him. He was a great man. But that was just one moment when we hit a bump. But when you ask me if I didn't owe him something, the answer is no. No. I owe everything to my wife.
Yes.
I owe nothing to her daddy except to take care of his daughter.
Which you have.
Which I have.
You have fulfilled that.
I have fulfilled that. So anyway, that's enough of that sermon, but I do hope that you don't allow things like our isolation to be another bridge or another barrier that keeps you from going from being isolated into the world. It's one of the reasons that encouraged me to start this video series, is because I want to show you that the world is welcoming and warm and wonderful, and regardless of whatever your difference is, there's a world out there for you to find and to mold to your liking. Please get out there. The world is better off with us in it than with us not in it.
Well said.
Please know I care about you. I would love to hear your comments. I don't care if you have a disability or not. If you have something you want to say, let us know. I appreciate you watching the show. And please do us a favor. Help us spread this show.
Yes.
We are not the most exciting thing on YouTube. I don't twerk. And Neil could, but I won't let him. And
I have before. It is a sight.
Please don't talk about that. I haven't had dinner yet. Don't spoil my meal. But we do want to spread this to try to help people. It's as close to ministry as I'm ever going to get, and I want to make a difference.
Might just learn something.
Maybe. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.